Hey, everybody. Well, Joe Biden released what was said to be by some an ad campaign aimed at blacks. Although, if you go to Joe Biden's YouTube page or channel, rather, you don't find a video that says Joe Biden wooing blacks or anything like that. But what you do find in social media is a clip where Biden said that Latinos are more diverse than African Americans. And a lot of you went ape. And then white-owned publications like Politico put it out there like, oh, he said this and everything else. And I'm really taken aback by the reactions of a number of you, like Betty Beverly, this self-described black female conservative on YouTube who has gained a number of followers because she's black and conservative, but she's knee-jerk, and I don't mean to offend her personally, but she doesn't think about what she vlogs. And she goes off and gets into this pseudo angry pose about how, oh, Biden is wrong and you shouldn't be supporting Biden and da 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 because he said that. Okay? Ms. Beverly, have you ever taken a course in school? Because if you had, and you had taken basic courses in sociology and economics, you would learn by now that, you know what, Biden is right. And why would you have learned that? Because you would have at some point been exposed to the United States Census and its breakdown, because you would have had to have used the census for a class project. You would have learned that according to the census, Latinos, or Hispanic as it is described still to this day, grouping, can be of any race. I don't like to use the term race to describe, well, African Americans, Caucasian Americans, and so on, but I digress. But this is the way society is today, and the census has reflected that for some time. It will tell you that Hispanics can be of any race: black, white, Asian, Hispanic. Okay? That's far different than African Americans. So guess what? Joe's right. And what all this reveals is one more sad example of just how dumbed down our society has become. This is shameful. And for the lot of you to be tricked by this, by a conservative who put this out there believing you're going to be baited by it, and that person was wrong, right, excuse me, is even more shameful. It shows how little you know about the United States, your United States of America. All right, and if you're black and falling for this, triple shame on you. You really should know your country. This is a strict census definition, a demographic definition of Latinos, Hispanics versus African Americans, black. Okay? That's what it is. No one is saying that, you know, there aren't African Americans who've intermarried into Latino, which makes them, you know, right. You see what I'm getting? Hispanic, Latino, okay? Black, Latino, rather. You see what I'm getting at? But then, of course, it drops right into the neat slots that were presented by the census decades ago, all right? The census started breaking this down in the way that I'm describing by my recollection in 1974. It goes back that far. Prior to the presentation of data that way, it was just black-white. And it wasn't until the 70s that Hispanic, Latino became more of a common presentation. And how do I know this? Because I produced a study called African Americans in San Francisco from 1960 to 1990 for the San Francisco Human Rights Commission, when it was ran by the late Ed Lee, who, yes, the same Ed Lee who was mayor of San Francisco later in his life, and a good friend of mine. So I miss that a lot, but I digress. But my point is, I went back into the data for the census in San Francisco all the way back really into the 50s, and made a kind of a chained time series trail of change in race in San Francisco. But I was also able to take note of how the presentation of data changed by our United States government. And that was a big, big, big factor that I noticed in data presentation changes, that Latinos, or Hispanics as the census calls Latinos, were not presented in fine-grained form, if you will, until the mid to late 70s. And that became even more so in subsequent years leading up to today. So look, Joe Biden is right. He is absolutely right. You might want to go and apologize and tell him so. And something else too. This underscores another problem. Don't be conservative just because you think it's going to piss off somebody black. Because there are people who do that. They want to be above it all. They want to make money from someone white who thinks that that kind of talk is more acceptable, to put someone down if you're black, putting somebody else down who's black. All right, that's wrong. Don't do that. Don't fall into that. Don't be a fool. If you're going to be conservative, be an intelligent conservative, not a couch potato conservative. Be a conservative that understands, for example, how a market economy works and how the price control mechanism works, and where it is appropriate to apply the price control mechanism versus the subsidy mechanism. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, you truly do not understand what it means to be conservative, okay? Because you don't know when to turn it on and off. If you don't know that, don't even pretend to be a conservative. Knock it off. You're being a lazy couch potato conservative whose position is based only on race, and you're doing no one any good. Please stop it. Thank you. And subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com.